All right. Welcome everyone to the virtual road trip, our second of the year. I'm Pam Brandon with AGE-u-cate, and we are thrilled to be traveling to Minnesota. You all need to grab your coats for our visit to with Lori LeBay. It's a little chilly up there. But as people are getting on, I will give you just a few moments to get settled and know that we're excited to have all of you. We have a huge crowd today, not surprising. Lori has a great following, and we've had a great following for the virtual road trip. So we're thrilled to have all of you. So I'm going to start with introducing Lori LeBay from Minnesota. She is a change agent and an innovator, and someone who has been a force behind the voice of people with dementia, and really a passion behind changing dementia care, not only in this country but around the world. Oprah, Marie Shriver, Dr. Oz, and AARP have all recognized her cutting-edge approach to shifting global dementia care, and I think it's amazing the work that she has done. Lori and I met several years ago, and I think our bond was that we both came into this space because of our personal experience, and I know that more than one time we've had conversations with each other saying, if only we had known when we were caring for our parents what we know today. And for both of us, that was decades ago when we began to care for our parents. And while we know so much has been moving in the right direction, we have a long way to go. And both of us are just passionate advocates for creating change where change needs to be made. So Lori did live, her mother lived 30 years with dementia. It is the inspiration behind her company, Alzheimer's Speaks, which is an advocacy company and multimedia company. She is on the go and talking to people from around the world constantly. She's an amazing, amazing person. So I'm so thrilled that she was able to have the time to spend on our webinar. So in addition to just some conversation that we're going to be having, she is going to be providing us tools and resources, and I am delighted to be able to have the time with you, Lori, to be able to share with all our listeners out there your knowledge and your inspiration and your passion for improving the lives of people who have dementia and their care partners. So welcome, Lori LeBay.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to spend this time with you and your audience. Like you said, we have such a common bond, and I think there's so many like us out there that have been touched by this disease. And to me, part of our job is to ignite that passion and that belief that everybody can make a difference in this sector. And it can be done really easily and without a lot of money. Or a lot of staffing changes, and it really is just about believing we can all do better.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're going to kind of start the conversation today. For those of you who had listened last month to our webinar, it was Joan Devine from Pioneer Network talking about how language and what we say, how it matters. And so we're going to segue to that as our first topic with Lori. So Lori, share a little bit about how you feel about the power of words.
Well, the power of words is vital, and it's vitally important that we start consciously caring about our word choices and understanding the impact. For years and years, like you said, my mom had dementia for 30. She's been gone for 35. But all we heard about for many, many, many years was cure. There wasn't anything much about care other than you were a caregiver. And we have to find that balance because the public is demanding it. They know a cure is not around the corner, and they want help, and they need help, and they deserve it. And so coming from that compassionate heart space, I think is really critical versus that corrective care. No, 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 that's not the right date. That's not the right time. No, you have to do it my way or the highway type thing. That does not work with dementia. So it's really switching from cure to care. And again, having that balance. We always want a cure, but in the meantime, we have to have that compassionate care. And then kind of stepping back from corrective care, which I don't even think we realize that's what we're doing a lot of times. And both families and professionals still get stuck in that. I think we also have to shift from this power and control. I'm the caregiver, I'm the care partner, I know best, to one of this give and take relationship. Because a person with dementia still has rights. They are still an active citizen. They're a human being, and they deserve dignity, and they deserve to be part of their care plan as much as possible. And again, as the disease progresses, that will change. But we also have to learn how to look for different signs of communication, maybe some nonverbal signs instead of just words coming out of a mouth. I think we have to switch from fixing this to supporting this. There isn't a fix. We can make it better. We can pretend that we've fixed a problem, but really we're supporting independence and dignity. When it comes down to it, we're trying to find that place of joy and comfort and relaxation and normalization. And, you know, normal life isn't perfect. And so why we expect life with dementia to be perfect is so unrealistic. But we tend to have this thought that it should be just like this, and we should never have a problem. Well, that's not real life. And so, you know, that's another term. You hear people talk about suffering and victims of the disease. We don't refer to people with heart disease and cancer as sufferers or victims. And people with dementia tell me all the time, if anyone's going to use those words about me, it better be me, because you have no right to tell me how I feel. I want to feel like an individual. I want to feel like a person first, not a disease. I don't want you to look at me and see dementia. I want you to see me as Betty or Bob or Joe or Joanne, whatever. It doesn't make any difference, but people want to be a person first. The word caregiver, you know, we always wonder why caregivers are burnt out. Well, the word itself says you're giving it all away, that you're not in relationship, you are in control, you are doing tasks for somebody else. And with dementia, so many people think that there can't be a relationship anymore. And I know from my personal journey, you can have a solid relationship. It might be very different, but I think actually it becomes almost more authentic as the decline goes on, because you are looking at a deeper level. You are seeing really small little things that you might have missed before. And so switching from the word caregiver to one of care partner or care companion kind of rolls me into the next phase, because again, that gets us relationship based. So one of the other terms that I don't really care for, and I know a lot of people out there will argue with me on this, and that's fine. It's always good to have a debate. But I despise at this point the term person-centered care. I see it overused and underdelivered, and it's lost its meaning. And so I would encourage people to start using the phrase relationship-based care. It says you're in it together. It says that a relationship is still possible and communication still exists. And with that, when you're in a relationship, you know, that opens the door to all of the emotions, the joy, the sadness, the whatever. And I think that needs to be communicated more clearly, not only to people diagnosed, but to families and staff as well. I think we've gotten way too task-oriented on many levels, and we've lost that personal touch that we all seem to be bragging about that we're doing. And we think we're being person-centered because our tasks are about another. But as we all know, it's not what we do, it's how we do it and how we make someone feel. And that has to come to the forefront again. Another word that we use a lot is behavior. When a person with dementia has a reaction that we don't like, we term it a behavior. Now, think to yourself, when you have a skill set, when you do something good, it's not called a behavior. You know, it's an asset, it's a skill. And when you do something poorly in someone else's eyes, or it doesn't meet their expectations, it's a behavior because you're not fitting in their box of what life should look like. And think about how that makes you feel. And how many times are we using that word about somebody, in front of somebody, and even to somebody? Stop that behavior. Oh, he really had a bad behavior today. You know, he really got aggressive. And what we need to do is understand that that behavior is a reaction. It's a clue. It's a signal. And I believe we all use what I call the same reaction equation, which is our current attitude plus our past experiences create our perceptions, and our perceptions then trigger our reactions to any given situation. And we all, I believe, use that equation. A person with dementia is just maybe drawing from a different pool of knowledge than we are. And if we can realize that when there's discomfort and when they are acting out, when they're not fitting in our box, it's a signal to us that something is gravely wrong and they don't know how else to communicate that to us. And it's our job. We talk about being inclusive, and I think that that is very important, but sometimes I think we don't realize when we are being exclusive and we're pushing apart that a person with dementia is so different from us. And I think I understand the necessity of categorizing, but I think we really have to be careful because nobody really wants to be different in a negative state. You know, you want to be like everyone else. You want to belong. And so I think we have to be very careful with that. We have to look at differences, yes, but more so we have to look at commonalities. You know, when we are focused on looking for commonalities, we're building bonds and friendships and we're expanding our knowledge base. But when we're looking at differences, a lot of times we're creating fear. And we are kind of building a wall between us and we don't even know that we're doing that. And even if we feel we're above that, others are portraying that wall and they're seeing it. And they may have questions and comments that they're fearful of saying, but you're changing their perceptions of what is right and what is wrong. Two last words that I think are really important. I think we get sucked into the word perfection a lot. You know, I'm not going to roll it out till it's perfect. Well, bottom line, it's never going to be perfect. Never. You can gain all this knowledge and you can procrastinate all you want, but the knowledge you have today, and if you roll it out in 2 days, things are going to change. And so you have to adapt anyway. So I would say focus on progress and not perfection. Perfection gets us stuck in a trap where we think we're not good enough, when we think we're really going to be judged. And progress is about saying, I'm just going to make a difference. I'm going to make the best difference I can make today, knowing that I can make another better difference even tomorrow, because I'm going to keep gaining knowledge. And I think that that's a critical step when we are in an area that needs explosion of creativity, that needs more people to step up to the plate. And it's not about judging and looking at failures, which is my my next word, but it's about what are the lessons wrapped in that. You know, you can ask any entrepreneur, any great business person out there, and they will tell you they have had many more failures than successes. But it's how they looked at them and how those experiences made them feel. Now, if you're going to get all beat up and go, oh, I'm a loser, I did it again, it didn't work out, you're probably not going to step up to the plate. Or if you do, you're not going to have confidence, you're not going to have a passion, and you're not going to have the belief that you can make a difference. But when you look at failures as a lesson, you get excited to just know you're going to make progress, that you're going to learn, and dang it, at least you're trying. At least you've made an effort.
I think with looking at it in those, with that lens, you're empowering yourself and you're
Hmm.
empowering others, because there are going to be failures along the way. We know that there's one, one day may be great and another day, as you said, is going to be very different. And for care partners to have the passion and keep their passion to do their work, whether they're professionals or families. They have to be able to accept and be joyful for the triumphs and say, look at what I've learned from something that didn't work.
Yeah. And looking for the joy, if you don't look for those things, you're not going to find them. If you're going to look just for the negatives, oh my gosh, you'll find many.
Right?
So focus on what you want to find too, because sometimes there's a lot more balance than you're aware of. If you're not looking for that balance, or if you're not looking for those positive things, they can be really subtle. And but that doesn't make them any less important.
That's right. Just being intentional about looking for those successes and those things that are working well. You know, many years ago when you and I were caregiving, 25, 30 years ago, plus, I think you would agree with me that even the word caregiver was not widely known. I just was a daughter trying to do the best job in helping my parents. It was many years before I even came to the realization that that's what I was doing, was caregiving. And now we've moved from that, and I do agree that care partner is a wonderful term to move to, although much of what you see out there is still caregiver. Um, just speaks for the strides that we have made. And I think that although all of us know that there has to be a lot more, we have done amazing things, I think, in the last 10 years, especially with so much of our language. Would you not agree?
Oh, I agree. I think I would say probably more in the last 5 years. I think the first 5 of that 10, when I stepped into the space, was really a struggle. People were like, are you an alien? What are you talking about? This isn't even an issue. And now what I love is that people are finally feeling comfortable having a conversation,
Right.
sitting down and having a glass of wine or a cup of coffee or dinner or whatever, and having honest conversations about this. The memory cafes, I think, have really made a big difference too, in terms of bringing a new normal, because the support group was always for the caregiver or the care partner,
Right.
and the person with dementia wasn't allowed. And a lot of times it turned into a complaint session.
Right.
And now, people are coming together and learning how to live together gracefully, knowing that they're not always going to be perfect, but there's other people like them. And so, those are so empowering, not only for the families that attend, but for the facilitators. Yeah, you may learn so much, because they're in the trenches with it all the time. And those conversations are gifts and can help us help others in so many ways.
Yes. And knowing that you are not alone is huge for the many, many tens of millions of family caregivers out there, especially care partners. I want to remind our audience today, if you have some questions for Lori, feel free to chat those in and we will address those. I forgot to say that in the beginning. Let's move into talking about your partnership with the Lutheran Home Association in Waterton, Wisconsin, on creating a dementia-friendly city. But before we talk about that, let's get to your definition of a dementia-friendly city, because this is a movement that is really sweeping the country, and I think there's still a lot of unknowns about what makes a dementia-friendly city. So, Lori, what is your perspective on it?
Well, I think a dementia-friendly community is really about pulling people together that are like minded, that are willing to do something in a deliberate, coordinated, and ongoing fashion to just improve the lives for people living with dementia, so that they feel safe, supported, and welcome. It really isn't anything different than what the rest of us want to feel in a community. It's just saying there's a special need here that hasn't been met. So how can we address that? And looking at their own business, their own community, and saying, where can we improve? Where can we make some progress in this? And what I found, in the dealings that I have had around the country and actually talking with people around the world, is that what's good for dementia is really good for everybody. It's not gonna deter anything. It's not gonna pull away. It's just gonna enhance people. It's gonna make them serve better. It's gonna make people slow down and connect and understand instead of blame a situation, and have some compassion. And I think we've really missed out on that a lot. I think we've gotten so fast paced. It's like, come on, hurry up. You're in the line and people are tapping behind going, well, come on, count the money, pull out the credit card. What's it going to take, And it really is about being able to assist and calm a situation down when someone's, agitated or anxious, and give them that helping hand, or if someone's lost. So I believe it has to do with education, and promoting awareness, and not promoting that you have it all figured out. This is something we will never have figured out, because every person is different. Every situation is different, every care partner, every environment. So there are standards and certain ways that we can do best practices. And to families, they don't really like that term best practice because it's too medical. They're like, just tell us how to help us live our lives, and be respectful and dignified in the way that you do that. And so it's really about just trying to be a better person and being aware that certain situations might not be what you thought they were. That person might not be drunk or high on drugs. And a lot of times that's an assumption. And so it's training everybody from, the mayor and the city council, down to the police and the fire, and the parks and rec people at the city, to, who's ever at the reception desk. It's about businesses getting involved and learning more. It's about, one of the things I love in my Roseville community here, we have the city, the library, and the school district all work really well together, and we do educational programs almost monthly for people, and we draw on what the community has as far as knowledge base. And the city itself has dedicated a page on their website for our group, so that people in Roseville and other communities can go and find these resources. And to my knowledge, they're the only one in the US that's done that. And that's a simple thing to do, but we were told over and over it couldn't be done. But everything can be done if you want to make it. If you want to get it done, there's a way to do it. You just have to align with the right people, and I think you have to have the greater good really in mind. It's not to increase your business. It's really, if you are out to better other people's lives, you will get buy-in to make this change.
Yes, absolutely. I'm involved in the Dementia Friendly Fort Worth initiative, and it has really taken off quickly, and we focus on awareness, education, and advocacy. I think that for many of our audience out here, you are probably in a position where you will, if you're not now, will be part of a dementia-friendly initiative that is going to, if not has already started in your community. It's growing that quickly. I think we were very fortunate in Fort Worth to have some very strong supporters right up front to kickstart the project. That said, what's been very apparent is our growth has been a wonderful collaboration of stakeholders in the community who see that dementia now, literally everyone is affected in some way by dementia, and it is going to exponentially increase in the years ahead. And so the dementia friendly initiative really should be, I think, not an option. I mean, cities have to get on board with this, that this is going to be our life going forward. It's a societal change taking place. Would you not agree?
Oh, I totally agree. And even though it's not normal, it is our new normal.
It is our
It,
new.
it is our new normal. And we shouldn't be afraid to say that. We shouldn't be embarrassed. You know, we're not when other health conditions arise. So why is there this stigma? And again, it's because of lack of education and people thinking that all dementia is end stages, you know, and they don't know the guy driving next to them in the car has dementia. And so changing that face and what can be expected, or even just the longevity. You know, if my mom living for 30 years, people told me back then, well, that's impossible. She can't have that. Well, you didn't see how atrophied her brain was on autopsy when even the neurologists were shocked. And they said, but this is what we should expect for someone who's had symptoms this long. So it's learning to also trust and respect people when they say they're having issues, because there's nothing more demeaning to them is when we respond, I lose my keys too, you know, and they're like, no, it's more than that. But people don't want to find out, you know, they're not inquisitive. They're more scared because if you could get it, oh my gosh, I could get it.
Yeah.
And so let's just stop this conversation.
Yeah. There's definitely fear based in society because they don't understand it. Let's go back to the Lutheran Home Association, your partnership with them, what has been done in Watertown, Wisconsin. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, with Watertown, it was really kind of fun. I was meeting with Michael Klatt, who was the executive director at the time for months. And I remember having coffee with him one day, and he said, Lori, I'm going to give you an hour with my staff. And if you can get them on board, we're a go. We'll do this. And so I remember driving down to Belle Plains in Minnesota and meeting with the staff. And I was like, all ready for my pitch. And I was into it about 10 or 15 minutes, and Michael stopped me. And I just immediately thought, I blew it. How could I blow it this soon? You know? And I was devastated. And he could tell by my face that I thought it was a dead deal. And he said, Lori, he said, look at them. You don't need to pitch anymore. Let's just go into how do we do this? And, you know, he was so gracious. His staff was so excited. And, you know, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. All I knew was I had heard they were doing this in other countries. And I thought, well, why the heck can't we? This is ridiculous. We should be able to do this. And so, you know, we went in with an attitude of not developing something perfect, but just making progress. Let's start. And so on grounds in Watertown, Wisconsin, the staff went around and they did door knocking, and they were talking to businesses, and the city was on board, and the police and fire and banks, dentists, you name it. And so they did a lot of groundwork. And then we did a 2-hour kickoff. And when we did the kickoff, I was a keynote speaker, and I was just kind of showing this global thing that was happening, and that nobody in the US was doing this. And we had the chance to jump on this bandwagon and do some exciting work. And what we found after the talk was that we had people from like 7 counties out come to this meeting. And what they repeatedly said to me was, we have been discussing this for 2 years, and we don't even have a mission statement. Mm-hmm. And they said, how did you do this? I said, kick your mission statement to the curb and just start. Do something. You can wordsmith that mission statement for life, and you will never get off the starting ground. You know, just start. Just believe you can do something better. And so, I mean, that's really the attitude that we took, was something is better than nothing. And We're not going to focus on people who don't believe. We're not going to spend all of our energy trying to convince them this is the way of the world and this is the direction we should go. We're going to grab and harness the people that see the need, that have probably been touched by the disease and who truly want to improve their business. And, you know, from there, Watertown, with the Lutheran Home Association, they, you know, started their educational programs. We kicked off a memory cafe, where a coffee shop, you know, we almost took over the whole thing. I felt bad because there was barely room for customers there, but there was so much interest. And the stories that, you know, of the people that came to the meeting and even to the memory cafe, I mean, people were in tears. They were like, oh my gosh, we need this. Thank you.
And this was in 2013,
Yep.
and now really has become a model for many other communities that that are looking to become dementia friendly, from what I understand.
Yep. There's, you know, and I mentor a lot of people. People will call on memory cafes, or how do I start a dementia friendly community, and who do we need on our team? And, you know, the first thing I say is stop believing that you need someone else to make a difference. Start believing that you and you alone can make a difference, and align with others that have that belief.
Yeah.
Don't go after necessarily organizations or titles that you think have a reputation that will buy you an expansive audience, because if that person on your committee doesn't believe, and they are just there because it's their job and their boss told them that they have to show up, they are gonna poke your balloon and leak your air out and suck you dry because they don't believe. I truly believe it is about harnessing passion. And, you know, when you get those people in there that really want to make a difference, they donate space, they donate printing, they pull out their contacts, their reach, their families, and sometimes money too. But, you know, everyone believes that you have to have a budget. You have to have this, you know, it's got to make money. Everything in life doesn't have to be about making money. You can expand your business by doing good things as well.
Absolutely. I think that creativity with these dementia friendly initiatives, you know, there's so much we can tap into from resources that are out there that with a group of passionate people can definitely make a difference. I think, you know, pitfalls, as you mentioned, would be, you know, bringing people in for the wrong reason. You want to have a group of passionate people who understand the why of why this is so important, and they do truly want to make a difference for the quality of life for people living with dementia and helping their care partners. That's just the bottom line. Awareness is important, education is important, but the core of it is we need to improve the quality of life for people in this country and in our own city.
Yeah, and understanding that, you know, this isn't just about the disease and the medical side. This is about friendships. This is about finances. This is about feeling part of a community. This is about all of life. And how do we still make a person with dementia, or a person who's maybe a friend or a family member caring for somebody, still feel part of the community, still feel useful, purposeful, knowledgeable? Those are really, you know, at the core of Maslow's theory is really basic needs.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to, I think, come off our ivory towers and come back down and go, what really makes somebody feel comfortable?
Right. And whether you have dementia or not, those needs are still there.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Before we run out of time, I want to move into tapping your knowledge and your resources about what's out there. What are tools out there, not just in this country, but in other parts of the world that you have found to be valuable, that you want to share with our audience today?
There are so many things. I would say one of the biggest resources that if you haven't tapped into it is just social media on Facebook, and some of the Facebook groups are so powerful, and people can tap into those 24/7, because if it's 3 a.m. in the US, somebody's up having a cup of tea and breakfast on the other side of the world, and they're ready to communicate and share their stories and stuff with you, and we can learn so much from that. Here in the US, there's a group called Dementia Mentors, which I think more people have to tap into. And they have expanded so much. But basically, it's a group of people with dementia that are mentoring brand new people who are getting diagnosed, because they know what it feels like to have their loved one look them in the eye with this sadness and this fear. They know what it's like to maybe not be invited now. They know the frustration and the sadness and the depression that can hit after a diagnosis, and they can help guide somebody to live better and let them know what they're feeling is normal, and connect them to others like them. And that is just and that's a free resource to people.
Okay.
So that's called Dementia
Dementia
Mentors.
mentors. Okay.
Yep. And then there is a group, oh, there's so many different groups, but like Norm's McNamara, for example, he started the Purple Angel Project. And the Purple Angel is just a symbol that you can use on your marketing, that basically people will ask, what is it? And that what is it gives you an opportunity to raise awareness and to talk about your work in a different light. And it also expands that your work is greater than just you or your community, that this is a global need. And I think that that is a really important factor. Now, you can't use that symbol to go sell t-shirts and coffee cups. It's not about that. It's about, and it costs no money to be part of this. All you have to do is read a sheet that Norm's put together. It's about awareness. It's not about having all the answers, because Norm's has been living with this disease for a long time. And, he's constantly learning and sharing, and is a wonderful resource. Peter Beery is over in the UK, and he does some wonderful videos. And he's a man with younger onsets, and he's been biking across Europe and raising awareness and doing tours. So there's all kinds of names out there. Harry Urban is another one. Truthful Loving Kindness, Lori Shearer. There's a group here in the US called Dementia Action Alliance that is really promoting the voice of people with dementia. And you can learn a lot from their resources on the site. Another resource that there's a couple of them that I'd like to mention. One is Us Against Alzheimer's, and they put out a daily newsletter, and it has little snippets of articles. And if you want to dig deeper, you can, on research, on lifestyle. And then there's usually a voice of dementia in there as well. And they have all kinds of subgroups. So they have Us Against Alzheimer's for women, for African Americans, for clergy, for veterans. And, if you've got another idea, let them know, because they know, there are no boundaries with this disease. So they're just a wealth of information, and they have done an excellent job working with Congress too, in terms of pushing things forward and making it easier for all of us to notify our senators and things like that, just like the Alzheimer's Association has. They really kind of work hand in hand in terms of that process. There is the, Alzheimer's Weekly and Dementia Weekly letter that comes out that has all kinds of resources, from books and videos. They are a fantastic resource. The Alz authors, if you're looking for books, you can find them on Facebook, or they've got a beautiful webpage as well. But they are actually doing book tours in different communities. So if you've got a conference and you really want to have a nice spread of diversity, they would be a wealth of information to have come and speak. Maria's Place, I just adore She is over in, oh my gosh, now I'm going to forget. I want to say it's Ireland. And I believe it's her niece is in Colorado. And Maria's place has all kinds of free activities. So you can find things by season, you can find things by stages, you can find things, you can find shopping lists. They'll show you videos how to do things for different progressions. But a wonderful, wonderful free resource. And then who else do I want to say? I know I could go on forever. There's so many. Bob DeMarco out there with the Alzheimer's Reading Room has lots of wonderful information. AARP is a wonderful resource here. And if you Google anything with Australia or Scotland in terms of dementia-friendly communities, Wisconsin also has a wonderful resource guide in terms of how to set one up, as well as Dementia Friendly America, out there. But, you can be part of a movement or you can start your own, within your community. It just depends on what you want to do. There are kids getting involved. So Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts are now doing projects and earning badges, for dementia awareness and education. Or one Boy Scout built a freshwater fish tank, and he raised $10,000 to do it. And he worked with a man who was a carpenter who lived in an assisted living, and then he hooked up with the businessman who was a mentor of a freshwater fish store. And he built this beautiful, beautiful fish tank, and then he couldn't give it away because nobody wanted to spend the $250 a month to maintain it. So he finally found a home for it. But he did that because his grandma had dementia and he had a passion for freshwater fish. So, you had mentioned creativity. It's endless. There are, one-person plays out there. There are plays now that people with dementia are participating in, and they're the leads. They're telling the stories. It's endless. There's touch football that the girls have put together to raise funds. There are knitting groups that are doing prayer shawls for people. Use your passion and figure out a way to help this group. It's endless. It's absolutely endless.
Absolutely. This is a great list of resources and advocacy groups. Many I am aware of, but many that I was not aware of. So thank you for educating me as well.
Oh, can I throw in one other one? There's also a big movement in the library systems. So Minnesota here has a couple of great ones. Roseville, Shoreview kind of started it out with the memory minder kits. And they're kits kind of like that you have for kids, activity kits. And but Alexandria, Minnesota just got a $90,000 grant for 10 of their libraries, and they have memory, I want to say memory resource centers, I believe is what they call them. And they have books, and then they have done these kits. They've done them a little bit different than Roseville. So if somebody's into gardening, there might be a book, but there'll be seed packs, and there might be some tools, and there might be some fresh dirt so they could smell it. So it's sensory oriented. Again, these things are endless. There's the choirs that so many people are participating in as well. The Giving Voice chorus, I know, is here in Minnesota, but there's all different types of them. The Purple Table reservations, where restaurants can partake in getting trained, and then they're on this app. People are really looking for where can we go and feel comfortable. So, and then the Memory Cafe directory is a great resource as well. And of course, Alzheimer's Speaks has a ton of things too from our radio show that we interview people around the world a couple times a week. Our dementia chats, where I facilitate a panel of people with dementia, and they just pick a topic and they talk from the heart. And then I just started, we were talking about this earlier, I kicked off this year Dementia Quick Tips, which are just things I wish someone would have told me when I started on this journey.
Right. Awesome list. And for anybody out there who is involved in dementia friendly, This list is amazing. And I think certainly what we're saying in the work that we're doing in Fort Worth is it's a matter of not where the opportunities are to go. It's what are we going to do first? Because there's so many once you open yourself up to the different collaborative efforts that's out there. But certainly this list will help families and professionals who want to really plug into what's going on here and around the world. So let's talk before we wind up about your memory chip that you've developed, because we are going to have this available to our audience. So you told me it was life-changing for you. And so talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, as I said, life isn't perfect, and it wasn't before dementia hit, and it sure as heck wasn't perfect once it did hit. And there were moments when I wasn't a perfect daughter, and I knew my mom deserved better. There were times when she would repeat herself 45 times in 10 minutes, and I didn't think it was funny. I didn't want to make a game out of it. All the things that you're told to do. And I was stressed, and I snapped, and I wasn't very nice. And I would feel so horrible when that would happen. And, I've got a good inner critic that's talks to me pretty good. And I just thought I can do better. There's got to be a way I can do better. And I had to sit back and think, and I thought, well, I'm going to interview other people. I'm going to interview professionals, and I'm going to interview families and ask them really 3 questions. And so I asked people, what was the most important thing they wanted their person with dementia to know? And so for families, it was typically pretty simple. Hey, we love them. We really just want them to know that we love them. Right. And for professionals, it was, we're here to support you. And I thought, okay, well, that's good. And then I realized that's not good enough. Our words aren't enough. We have to use our multisensory engagement to really communicate, especially as the disease progresses. And so the earlier we can start that out, the better. So it might be simple things, like if you're a family member, just wearing the same cologne. So now they can smell you and not just hear the tone and your words. A tone of voice is really important. Attitude is really important, when you enter a room. Touch, are you going to give them a hug or a kiss if it's a family member? Are you going to hold their hand? Your approach, what direction are you coming from? All of those things are little sensory things that help them grab a hold of you a little bit longer. And staff can use those as well. They're probably not going to kiss and hug like maybe a family person but think about how do you embed more sensory into your engagement? Because as the disease goes, they say it's like Swiss cheese, and they don't know where those holes are going to be. So let's try to make more connections. Then I asked everybody, what do you need to focus on? And this one I thought I had down pat, because professionals said, well, I got a job description. And family said, I got a checklist. And I thought, I got a checklist too. I'm all over this. And then about 2-3 months, down the path, I wake up from a dead sleep, sweating in this panic, going, oh my gosh, how did I miss this? And what I missed wasn't a word. It was a subtle twang in their voice that said, with no words, this isn't how I pictured my life. Mm-hmm. And I realized at that moment, one of my problems was when I looked at my list, and I could look at it and go, everything on here's for mom. Everything is on here for mom. But what I wasn't focused on was, how was I making my mom feel? And so I realized I had to switch from task to really being relationship-based, and to really focus on how was I making her feel. And so and I couldn't get rid of my to-do list. I still had to do stuff. But before I did any tasks, I would repeat over and over, was she safe, happy, and pain-free? That became my true focus. Was she safe? Was she happy? Was she pain-free? And what I found was when I focused on those three things, I did my tasks different. I found out there were things on my list I didn't have to do, but they were there because I needed to feel like I was fixing a problem that I
Mhm.
didn't need to fix, that I just needed to support. I found that I could then ask others for help because it wasn't just about me doing it, it was about bringing comfort to her. And my brothers might do the task differently, and it might not be even close to how I would do it, but that they still had a right to their relationship.
Right.
And that was something that she needed as well.
Absolutely.
And then the third thing on the memory chip that I asked everybody was, what do you want to remember? And again, from a staff or family, do you want to remember, sad, depressing things, grief and loss, or anger? Or do you want to remember joy? Joy is always before us, but we're not going to find it if we're not looking for it.
Right.
And so a part of, I think, especially with families, and staff run into this all the time because they're like, well, I don't have that issue with them. Well, you don't have the history with them that the family might have.
Right.
And so everybody's coming from different angles. So one, appreciating that, but then really focusing on those good moments and taking a picture, on your phone, or a video, or maybe you're going to write a poem or a haiku, or just jot down a short story and then share it. Share it with others. Don't keep it to yourself, because that can be used for reminiscing. And that's another tool we'll give you too, is called Your Memory Journal, which is really about taking a picture or a video and then sharing that with others so that it can be relived, and let them reminisce and be in those joyful times. And when they're in those joyful times, so are you.
Absolutely. Yeah. What you give will come back.
Yep, exactly.
So the memory chip will be a what we will have a link to that, so you can grab that. And this is great. I love it. It's simple. It's easy to follow, but it really hits on the high points of everything you said. The most important. It will make a care partner really look at what is it that's most important in our relationship. So
Yeah.
very powerful, one page. And
Yeah, and I even made bracelets for that. And so yeah, I would find myself kind of snapping myself with it every now and then of, Lori, that wasn't safe, happy, and pain free for either of you. That was just
we'll
not a
remind
nice
you.
not a nice moment. But it reminded me. And to change my habit, what I did was I read my memory chip every morning, every afternoon, and every evening. And I read it before every interaction. If it was in person, if it was on phone. Nowadays we've got Skype and Zoom and video conferencing. And I would even have it in the car with me at a stoplight. And it just made it made it easier for me to change that habit and focus, because we for years and years we have been so task oriented. And, again, that is not what makes somebody's heart melt, and it's not what makes your heart melt. Think about what makes your heart melt.
Absolutely. I wish I had had the memory chip. I wish I knew you 20 years ago. This would have helped me. Um, so yeah, this is great. Thank you so much for all you've shared. I think everybody will agree with me. Wealth of information. Love your passion, Lori, and your knowledge. And I encourage all of you to connect with Alzheimer's Speaks and the podcasts and the radio shows that Lori does. She really has so many points that so many learning tools and connections out there, and her wealth of knowledge is amazing. So I really, really appreciate that you've spent the time to be with our audience today and share all that. With that, I am going to give everyone a little spark of what we're going to be talking about next month. We're going to be traveling to New York City and talking to Mary Fridley and Dr. Susan Massad from East Side Institute. You probably know them as well, Lori.
Oh yeah, they're great.
Yes, and we're going to be talking about the joy of dementia. And no, we're not kidding, the joy of dementia. This is going to be Wednesday, March 18th, and they will introduce their Joy of Dementia program and method and what it means to create an environment which supports everyone involved. They talk about the dementia ensemble and not knowing is growing, and the use of improvisational play, which it's fascinating. I met these two ladies about a month ago and knew that they were our next guests. So join us in the Big Apple if you are looking for more creative ways to approach memory loss and dementia, if you're interested in using a diagnosis as a starting point for creativity. And if you want to discover how to have more growth, inclusion, hope, and yes, joy in dementia. So we are really excited to be talking to Mary and Dr. Susan Massad next month from the East Side Institute in New York. So we hope you all are going to join us for that. And Lori, if you have any closing remarks.
Sure. Someone did ask about, can I send a list of the resources? I'll send you a much longer list of resources in a PDF. I'll also send to you to post a trifold of communication tips as well. And, feel free to use any of these. That's the whole point is, share the information with others and share the resources. Don't keep them to yourself. People need as much help as possible making connections, and know that not every resource is going to be useful to somebody. What works for you might not work for somebody else, and that's okay. That's called human. And we have to honor that and let them share, what they've learned with you as well. And thank you for having me on. It's really been an honor, Pam, and I love your work and all you're doing. So I can't wait to see your next show, because I know it's going to be fascinating. Those women are so passionate about their work and are just doing a wonderful, wonderful things. So changing lives.
Thank you so much, Lori. It was great visiting with you. We will be sending out a recording of this, and we will have the memory chip, the memory journal, and dementia quick trips, all from Lori. So thank you for sharing all that, and just having the opportunity in our busy schedules to get to chat with each other and share the conversation with all of our audience has been awesome. So thank you all, and we will see you next month. Have a good rest of this month.
Bye now.